And welcome back to Conservative Arkansas Media. I'm Paul Harrell. As promised, I told you we're going to talk a little bit about criminal justice reform. About a month ago, in fact, we can see here the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette posting this article, Criminal Justice Fentanyl Bills Signed into Law. So Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed these about a month ago. We covered this extensively during our legislative roundups and everything that we were going through. I reached out to Attorney General Tim Griffin, wanted to have him on to talk about this new legislation and anything he knows about it, any context he wants to add. Mr. Attorney General, it's very difficult for me not to call you Lieutenant Governor because our interviews in the past, you were the Lieutenant Governor, so I'm still getting my head wrapped around that. Welcome to the program. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for having me. If you just call me Tim and cut the nonsense, you wouldn't get confused. That's right. That's right. Well, so let's just do that. Okay, let's Tim. Just do that. All right. That's good. Yeah. So here's the deal. I was really invested and had a lot to do with this Protect Arkansas Act going back really 2 years, a year and a half at least. So I live in Little Rock, and I know and knew that violent crime is a statewide problem. But about a year and a half ago, I started looking at articles as I read them in the paper and articles online and stuff on TV. And as I heard about a rape or a murder or, armed robbery or whatever, I would read these articles because the lesser crimes generally aren't going to make the press. And I started asking the question, how many of these criminal acts today that I'm reading about are being committed by people out on parole? I didn't know the answer to that. And I had seen some statistics such as there are 20-something thousand people out on parole and 5,000 have absconded. What does that mean? That means there's 5,000 roaming around, felons. The state doesn't know where they are and what they're doing. Well, you can bet they're generally not up to good things. They're generally not walking people, elderly ladies across the street and joining the Boy Scouts. You can bet on that as a general rule. There may be one in there. So I knew that there were a lot of people running around the state up to no good that we had no way to track. And so what I started doing is real common sense. And again, this is about a year and a half ago. So I live in Little Rock, been on the same street for over 20 years, and I'd had 2 attempted murders within a few football fields of my farm. And that's when I was like, okay, we got to fix this. Mm-hmm. So I start pulling articles from websites, whatever, just when they came out each day. I didn't go searching for anything. Open the paper, read the paper, so-and-so gets sentenced 10 years, whatever. So I would take those articles and send them to an attorney friend of mine. I'm obviously an attorney, but didn't have time to do all the research. So had that individual research online, not in a government database, but there's a nonprofit database that pulls a lot of this parole information together, and then had him go into CourtLink, which you have to go into the court records and find a lot of this information out. So this information, whether someone's on parole or not, is publicly available. It is not easily discoverable. So he had to do a lot of work to figure out, was this person that Tim just read about, who murdered or raped or whatever, is that person on parole? And he'd figure that out. Well, if they were not on parole, he would put it to the side. If it was it was of no relevance to this analysis. If they were on parole, he would put them in a spreadsheet. And he would put from such as, what did they do the first or second or third or fourth time, whatever, to get on parole? What did they do this time? That was the subject of the article that
brought them to my attention. How much time did they get before? How much did they actually serve? Et cetera, et cetera. And we built a spreadsheet. And what we found out after a few months, God, this a very, very high percentage of the people up to no good, raping and pillaging and killing and blah, they're out on parole. And I knew we had a catch and release revolving door system in Arkansas. A lot of states have that. But I didn't know how bad it was until I started getting these numbers. And I remembered that I'd visited with the police chief in Wynne, Arkansas, who once told me when we arrest someone and we put them in the police car, the first thing they ask, am I going federal or state? Now, why do they want to know that? Mm-hmm. Because people are generally scared of the federal system and they're not scared of the state system. So they would laugh if the answer is state and they would cry if the answer is federal.
Well, and, I read where one of the sponsors of the legislation, State Representative Jimmy Gazaway, and I know this was also debated in committee, said, if you're a criminal and you get 20 years, you're going to serve 3, and then you're going to be let go. Most people don't know this. You mentioned violent crime in Little Rock, but, in my neck of the woods in Northeast Arkansas, we have seen a massive uptick in violent crime. It's every day. You open the paper, you go to your, favorite website. It's a huge problem, and I'm glad that it was addressed here. And do you think that this new law adequately addresses these issues?
Yeah. So in short, I don't know how much time we have, but this is the bottom line to what I was saying there is I've been working on this a long time. I spearheaded this. I flew some legislators, including Jimmy, up to meet with former twice Attorney General Bill Barr, who talked about this in his recent book. But the federal system has no parole. In the federal system, if you get 10 years, you get 10 years. Now, for some crimes, you can earn up to 15% early release. It is not parole. You have to earn that. But if you get 10 years in the federal system, you will do 8.5 minimum. Wow. You get the whole sentence, but you can earn up to 15% early release. So what I said, so the default in the federal system is you do it all. And if you do some good things, you might get out a little bit early. The state system default is you get 10 years, you are going to get out really, really early, no matter what, unless you kill somebody else in there, and then they might let you out anyway. But you may do 2 years, you may do whatever. So we had an example of somebody, a violent criminal, who got 144 months, which is 12 years. He served 24 months. Even though 17 of the 24 months in Arkansas prison, he got in trouble, including battery of an officer. They still let him out in 24 months. So here's the bottom line. The state system, as it has existed for a long time, is a disaster. And it is geared toward getting people out of prison as soon as possible. So when someone is up for parole, that is called their PID, parole, PED, parole eligibility date, PED. So if you get 10 years and you're up for parole in 2, your sentence is 10 years because they're going to release you in most instances on your eligibility date. And then you're right back out killing again. And we see this. Yeah. So my spreadsheet ended up being hundreds of people. What I sought to do in designing this law was to take the federal approach, get rid of parole. So for the violent criminals, you either get 100% and you can't earn any time out early if it's the worst violent crime, or you get 85%, which is like the federal. For nonviolent, for those who are more likely to be rehabilitated, for those who are more likely to be able to integrate into civil society and row in the same direction, nonviolent, you still get the 100% sentence, but you can earn up to 50% off or even 75% off, nonviolent only, but it's not a default. The default is you do all 100% of your sentence. If you do certain things, you can earn time down on the nonviolent, such as get a welding certification, get a truck driving certification, become a plumber, get your college degree, get a 2-year degree, whatever.
Yeah,
nonviolent.
That actually sounds like reforming. One of the things that the governor said, I think during her inaugural speech, was there's nothing compassionate about sending unreformed, unrepentant criminals back onto the street, right? And it sounds like with this system, the nonviolent system as well, you're actually saying, look, we will reduce, for the nonviolent, we will reduce your sentence if you actually do something that shows us you're going to become a contributing member of society.
You have to earn it. Your sentence is not actually reduced. You're going to get that 100% sentence, and you can earn that good time to get out. But yes, it puts the onus. It makes the default opposite of what it is now. Right now, you're going to get out on your parole eligibility date no matter what. Wow. And you won't do much of your time. Oh, and by the way, because we run out of room in the prisons all the time, you may get released anyway on emergency release. So Governor Hutchinson and other governors have been releasing people willy-nilly. Love that phrase. Every year, like over 1,000 prisoners, they just release them. And it's because for 20 years, no one built more prison capacity. Hey, look, I hate the fact that we have to build more prisons and lock people up, but I also hate the fact that they murder and rape people.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was about to go.
I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how else to put it. It is asinine. It is foolish. It is crazy to take these people who are violent criminals who have proven it and release them and say, have a good day. Those people that are behind that and who defend that, they ought to have to live right next to them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and as somebody who's
yes, it's going to take a while to implement this because we've got to build more capacity. Our county jails are all filled with violent felons that belong in prison because instead of building the prison capacity we've needed over the last so many years, they've just been pushed down into the county jails. Unacceptable. That's 2,000 right there. That's 2,000 beds you need right there just to clear the county jails out.
Yes, that was my next question, is the prisons. So we're going to build new prisons, going to alleviate the county. I mean, yeah, we have to. I mean, as somebody who considers myself somewhat of a limited government guy, this is the responsibility of government.
This is the foundation.
Yes, this is the reason you have a government, so that you can, be safe and have a peaceful life. This is one of the functions of government, is to lock up criminals.
There's a lot of things that government does that people either like or dislike. And you can like bike paths, but bike paths are no good if you're going to get a bullet in your head while you're riding your bike. That's
exactly right. That is exactly right. Well, Attorney General Tim, thank you for coming on the program. We really appreciate your time. It was a very helpful way to dissect everything that this bill does, and I know there's more that it does.
It's going to take a while. It's got to get implemented. I tell people, even a slowly, poorly implemented bill, a slowly, poorly implemented PROTECT Act will make us 10 times safer than we currently are. I mean, that's how bad it is. So this will be implemented. It'll be implemented well, but it's going to take a little time because we've got to build brick and mortar prisons. It's been 20 years since we've had any kind of expansion. And let me just say this. Everybody talks about loving on law enforcement. There is nothing more disrespectful to law enforcement than to say, hey, look, I appreciate you arresting this violent criminal, but we're going to release them time and time again so you can keep risking your life on the same person.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, and shame on people who advocate for that.
Yeah, that's very well said. Attorney General Tim Griffin, thank you so much for coming on the program. Really appreciate it.
Peace.
All right, folks.
See you, man. You're the best.
Yes, sir. This is Conservative Arkansas Media. Thanks for watching.